Yes, sir.
Hi, Kevin. Your question for Tim.
Absolutely. So recently, actually, I've been watching a few of you guys' videos. It's been pretty good.
Cool.
I'm reading Trent Horn's book, The Case for Catholicism,
Okay.
and he has me completely gripped with the first 4 chapters.
Awesome.
I'm not completely turned around yet for Purgatory. I was wondering if you can give me
Sure.
a short, I guess, as brief as it can be,
Yeah.
for the sake of the radio, a proof of that.
Sure.
Why the church believes that.
Yeah. I tell you, I like St. Augustine's favorite verse for purgatory. In fact, he uses it multiple times. Is 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 11. And I think it really, when you understand what purgatory is, that we believe as Catholics that if you die in a state of mortal sin, you have rejected Jesus Christ and you will go to hell for all eternity. However, if you die in a state of grace, but you still have venial sins, that is, sins that do not separate you from your state of grace or your relationship with Jesus Christ, but they wound the soul. And as you probably know by now, brother, you've got 1 John 5:16 that teaches there are sins unto death and there are sins not unto death. In fact, the RSV translates that as mortal sins and not mortal, sins that are not mortal. And that's precisely what that means there. And you have examples like in Matthew 5:19 where Jesus teaches that if anyone breaks one of these least commandments and even teaches others to do so, he will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But he who does and teaches will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So notice there, Jesus teaches you can break certain laws, the least laws, and still go to heaven. That's the definition of venial sin. But then you go to verse 22, he says, if you hate your brother, you're in danger of hellfire. If you go to verse 28 and 29, he says, adultery, even in the heart, will separate you from God. So Jesus, as well as John, teaches a distinction between mortal and venial sins. And that's important to understand because when we die, we will have all sorts of imperfections, most likely. Now, we can be perfectly purified at death and not go to purgatory. But if we do have slight sins, we call them venial sins on your soul, or punishment that is yet due for sins, as in the case, as you know, classically in 2 Samuel chapter 11 and 12 of King David, who committed murder and adultery, and he repented, and Nathan the prophet declared, your sin has been taken away. However, he would suffer the rest of his life. That's temporal punishment he suffered due to the grave nature of the sins that he committed. Now, if we die before we have been able to make the full temporal atonement, now remember, the eternal punishment for sin is taken care by Jesus Christ on the cross and through the sacraments. But temporal punishment is something aided by grace, to be sure. We need the grace of God, but we must suffer in order to make atonement temporally. And that's what purgatory is all about, is if we die with these imperfections on our souls, it's really a state more than a place where we are finally purified before we enter heaven. And with that as a brief explanation, let's look at 1 Corinthians 3:11. Notice St. Paul says, no other foundation can any man lay except that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Of course, Jesus Christ is the foundation of our lives. Now, if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, now that's talking about the nature of the works done in Christ, right? They're made of gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble. Each man's work will become manifest, for the day, meaning the day of judgment, the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work which any man has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. Obviously, in the fire of the judgment, the gold, the silver, the precious stones will go through the fire, right? But then look, If the work which any man has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss. And I want you to notice here, brother, it's not just the work being burned, but it's the man. Because notice, if any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, though he himself will be saved, but only as through fire. That is a clear reference to purgatory in this sense. This is revealing a place or a state of being after death that is not heaven, because there's imperfections there being burned up. And you and I know Revelation 21:27 says no unclean thing can enter into heaven. In fact, Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 13 says God is of purer eyes than to even behold the slightest iniquity. Right? So you have imperfections here. That's not heaven. And it's not hell because people are being saved. Well, what is it? This is purgatory, where those final imperfections in the soul are purified so that the person can enter into what we call the possession of God in the beatific vision in heaven. Does that help at all, Kevin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother. God bless you. And please don't be a stranger, man. I'm sure you've checked it out, but go to Catholic.com. We've got tens of thousands of pages of free information for you, articles galore that you can download. So don't be a stranger, Kevin. Hope to hear from you again.
Okay, Kevin?
Yes, sir. Thank you.